Chapter 3, Alex Collier lectures at the American Gnostic School, November 1996. The true meaning of the term warrior. Alex, okay, a brief overview. I have for 30 years been visited by and taken aboard craft by beings who live in the constellation of Andromeda. They are light blue in color. They look like the depiction on the wall over there, but they have no hair. They're awesome. They are a very healed race, and after thinking about it, I think the reason they are so healed is because they have absolute mutual respect for everyone. They've said the only way we're going to have a healed race is to have mutual respect for each other. I realize that there is not a lot of that teaching going on anymore in our world. I have had to look at the character of our race on Earth, because I am blessed to be able to compare it to something else. Folks, we have a lot of work to do in a very short time in which to do it. A lot of things are going to start happening around February, March and April 1997. You know, I wish I could just tell you it's all love and light, but that's just not reality. We live in a duality here, and there are definitely some races that are screwing with us. I understand from talking with people here that you are being taught a lot of what to do. Self-sufficiency and self-preservation, and being totally self-responsible. It is imperative that what you know when you leave here you go home and teach, because this truth is not out there. It is one of the sadness that I have, because I have been shown some probable futures. A lot of people don't make it. 2/3 of the people on the planet don't make it in those probable scenarios, and I truly don't want that to happen. You know, there are a lot of really good, generous people, but they don't know the truth. They have no way of attaining the truth, because of where they are on a consciousness level. You are all teachers. You are all leaders. You were leaders before you came in here. You were teachers before you came in here. But when you go out of here, from what I understand from Val, Judy Pope, Greg and others, is that you are going to walk out of this school as professors. Ph.D.s. The word warrior originally meant not being afraid of who you are. It didn't mean one who slashes, cuts up and murders. It meant not being afraid to be who you are, and we are all royalty, and I will get into that. The two beings that come to see me and that I have gone with are two Andromedans. There is a very tall one, about 7½ feet tall, almost 8 feet. He weighs about 450 pounds and is just huge. I was very self-conscious. It's a male thing. His name is Moreni. Now as these beings get older, their skin pales and turns white. Their average lifespan in our linear time would be 2007 years. So, of course, you see a lot of changes in that amount of time. Hanging out here for 60 years is just a weekend. The other one is named Visace, who in our linear time is 4,300 years old. He is considered a sage in his world, and he will be crossing over, moving out of their physicality, soon. In Andromeda, when somebody moves out of their physicality, it's cause for a celebration. Here, unless you're Irish, it's a somber occasion. The Irish have the right idea, they party. You know, divide the clothes up and everything. Anyway, I once asked Visace what was to become of our future. What was going to happen to us? I want to read you this definition of what he said. Now, you may have already seen this definition before in the Leading Edge magazine, have visited Val's section, or have heard it in the bootleg videos that are all over the place, but this is what they said: responsible freedom of self-determination. Becoming truly self-confident and free to unconditionally be responsible for oneself, without being coerced to accept some higher authority. Now, I understand that this is exactly what you are being taught at this school. What is really nice is that this fact is confirmation not only for me, but also for everyone here. I didn't know anything about this school until about 3 weeks ago. The changes that are coming, from what I have been told by Moreni and Visace, are going to affect males the most, because we are the most shut down, not only genetically but spiritually as well. I am just being general and not referring to necessarily to all of you here. I am just pretending like all the world is listening. It looks like the whole world in here. The love you withhold is the pain you carry. One of the most profound things that I had to experience was when I was living in Lake Arrowhead, California in 1987. Contacts had resumed for 2 years, and I was having a Murphy year. You know Murphy. Shit happens. I was having a Murphy year. I felt like checking out of here. Anyway, Visace had come to see me and we had some discussions and more teaching, and it was time to come back. I didn't want to come back. I would have embarrassed all of you with the way I carried on. But, I just didn't want to come back. I felt, well, Nothing is working here, let's try something different. Here I am in another reality already. So, here I am on the ground and they are leaving, lifting off. I hear a voice in my head, because he is strictly telepathic, saying to me, Alex, turn around. So, I turn around, and here I am crying, feeling abandoned, and he says, Alex, the love that you withhold is the pain that you carry, lifetime after lifetime. And folks, there is not a day that goes by where I don't remind myself of that or think about that. It has helped me reevaluate all the decisions that I have made in my life. It has also helped me to take myself apart and look at all the pieces of my personality, what my belief systems are, what I think is true and what is true through experience. That took a long time, and I'm still not done. You know, you are constantly redoing yourself, making yourself over and reevaluating your belief systems. Our reality here is nothing but belief systems, for the most part. You know, I wanted to pass that on to you, because I have made a lot of decisions, and I'm sure a lot of you have, where your decisions were not based on love, and you literally withheld love, for some reason. It's time we grow out of that. We have no choice. The shit is about to hit the fan. And, it's really all about love and fear, which is withholding love. And, I am going to read some things to you in their own words, because they put it a lot better than I do. Moreni has learned to speak English, and there will be a time, probably between now and just after 2003, if everything goes well, when he will literally be working here with us. He wanted to learn English, and his English is not very good. You have to blame me for that. I did the best I could. Now, when they talk to each other, they talk telepathically, and their language is holographic, much like the ancient Chinese language or the ancient Japanese. They are literally holographs, but you can't literally pull them up off the page. A holographic language involves entire concepts at once, so for example you can get one symbol, and perhaps in that one symbol could be 10,000 years of a history. It's very hard to describe and it's taken me a long time to try to figure it out. They were very patient in teaching me how to understand their language. I want to do questions and answers, because there is so much locked in my head that I have not tapped into yet. Unless someone asks a question, it doesn't come up. Okay? So I am counting on you to ask some really good questions, and if I don't know the answer, I will tell you that I don't know. Now, I don't talk the same language or use the same terms you do. I am really a simple, complicated kind of guy. Okay, so what I want to do is read this. I was given this on November 3, 1996. Human genetic transfers and reincarnation. Alex, we have already spoken with you in detail of your race's genetic transfers and reincarnation before. I will mention them again when necessary because your path and happiness depend on being able to attain the truth. Yes, we are aware the situation of your planet shows great deviation of the right path in the sincerity period. But, please, if you would try to share this moment in your planet's evolution as a preparation for the investments, which will be made in the very near future for your races. Now, there is a whole conversation that preempted this. Basically, I had a contact and I went up there with an attitude. You know, I'm a Terran, I have extremes of emotions, and I am really frustrated by a lot of things. I don't understand how the planet is supposed to evolve when nobody wants to hear the truth, and most of the truth isn't even available. I am extremely frustrated by that, and then I hear metaphysicians try to justify this by saying we were teaching the wrong thing but it's all we have. I have a difficult time justifying that. Why propagate something we know isn't real? That's another whole issue, and when we get to the subject of religions I really want to share with you what I have been told. Okay, this continues. Since the removal of conditions by density technology, your evolution is going to a faster pace, I think you say, than before. Note, here Moreni paused in the middle of the talk to listen to information regarding movement of craft around Uranus. He smiled and then resumed his explanation. We have had to raise the frequency of your planet to move change and enlightenment along. Such a broad word you use, this word, enlightenment. It was necessary. This also means great tests of tolerance and situations will be needed, by your races. The most important of these tolerances will be caused by delusionary discriminations between your peoples. And folks, this is happening all over the planet, and it's such crap. At the present moment your races are carrying in your DNA genetics the influences of 1,000 centuries, as you count rotations, both the positive and negative aspects. Please understand we are trying to prepare your races for advanced maturity. At present moment, many transfers occur in your planet from many different cultures and planes. Each member of the races on and in your planet will naturally exhibit their own mentality. They do and will contradict your habitual cultures. They are very specific about the words they use. But, please do not forget that we have told you about mental conflicts, that they cause each to go through tests of maturity. We determine your mentalities through the impulse signals we receive from your race's chain of thoughts. Now, the selection of man or woman in the situations they transcend are much more difficult, because their preparation in terms of the future is in accordance with their level of consciousness. Alex, you cannot help all your races. Each member of your races will feel their essencing during the balancing of positive and negative as they have done, and it will be weighed in their own consciousness. Those who prepare and invest will be prepared for the evolution to another density. The countenance of your planet is changing very quickly. Please don't confuse our compassion for your races with a love for your planet. Please understand that they, two concepts, are separate with our race. We are neither pleased with your world's riches, nor dismayed by its poverty. We come to here, to assist in the period of sincerity. The clarifying of the original intent in all of us in this video, tone, holograph. Because of lineage to your races, we return to you. Your world is a place of veiled consciousness. In order to be embodied in physicalness, all frequencies should be assembled in a whole intent. The very distresses, the many anxieties, are the result of conflict with the limitless awareness in your races. This is the reason why your planet races cannot attain your own selves, and yet you desire to possess everything. The reflections of your evolutionary state of physicality causes your races not to live comfortably on your planet. Your present religions cause your races to unify the idea of your physical bodies with your abstract egos. You call this progress. We do not. Stop looking to your physicality to bring you enlightenment. Your bodies are the effect of the cause, which is intent, moved by emotion, which creates physicality. During previous pastimes in your third density, education of the soul took many incarnations of life and death of the physical body. Situations and reincarnations would reflect this system, it appears. All beings would transcend your physicalness in accordance with the degree of consciousness attained. Since it appears that your races, having no concept of the law of consistency, became very fragmented in extremes. Religions became divisions of beliefs, and conflicts among your races took place. The worship of belief systems and idolatry came into existence. Now, the technology of advanced races and higher densities have taken control of your evolutionary systems, and by means of this system's control, the evolution of certain dimensions. Reincarnations have become history, and by this means your races, Alex, and others' races than yours, have a probability of directly attaining your full senses. The reason for telling you this truth in all clarity is to free you of the conflicts and contradictions, so your races can attain the truth as soon as possible. So, don't ask us about yourself, ask about yourself to your own self. If your races cannot attain the truth and cannot be unified with your original intent, we will not be able to be in touch with your planet races. Since the ego consciousness in your races still goes on, and since you cannot break the denial of your inner self, your race becomes detrimental to the planet and to your planetary system. At this moment, there are many beings who cannot attain genuine respect for self and self-awareness in our galaxy. They, as well, are being kept under control. Their evolutions are being made in an indirect way. Your races have also been persecuted and manipulated by other galactic races from planetary systems negatively charged, other than your own. Since during your different past time periods they have tried to prove to your ancestors their own technical power, fear has been created in your races. We have returned, to convey the truth, to erase these fears. Since your planet is the site of both the most primitive and most high maturity, it is very full of contradictions. Your religions which helped many to evolve, have not been released. Your races have refused to let go of a system of beliefs that have not serviced your planet for the last 453 rotations of your star years. By freeing you of this, and with the use of common sense, we hope your races will attain your own selves, and become fully independent. Be at one. In their perspective, and that's what it is, it's obvious that there is not just one truth. There are many truths. The one truth is that we all exist. That we know, that we all have an essence that is undefinable and truly eternal. They said that somewhere around the beginning of December 2013, third density will implode. It will implode. What does that mean? I don't know if this is true, but they say, and they are convinced, that literally what is going to happen is that there is going to be a graduation out of physicality. That means that a lot of us are going home, and that means that a lot of others are going to start over again. A lot of this is to do with our genetics. According to the Andromedans, our physicality is the sum total of 22 different races that have come down here, spent the weekend, messed with us and then took off and went home. Intermingled, left children behind and just took off. The Egyptian pharaohs are a perfect example of this. The blue bloods, the Rothschilds who are also blue bloods, are also another example of this. Their blood is copper-based. That's CT. Okay? The thing about copper-based blood is that you don't need a lot of oxygen. Your physicality tends to grow and have a larger lung capacity. So, living in a lot of environments where we couldn't becomes possible. Now, what is interesting is that in our physicality, what we know as Earth, our atmosphere is getting thinner and thinner. I know that there is a lot of talk about the ozone, that the ozone crisis is a myth. There is an ozone crisis. We are all partly responsible for destroying our environment. According to the Andromedans, 3,500 years ago the oxygen content of the atmosphere was between 34% and 38%. They say that today it is literally less than 17%. Now, those of you that have studied biology know what happens to the physical body when the oxygen content goes below 15%. Your body dies. Now, why is this happening? Because there are a group of Terran humans that have been made a promise by a group of extraterrestrials that have Orion belief systems that if they will get rid of some of the races on the planet, that these extraterrestrials will use their technology and restore the Earth to its original state. Some of that genocide was to be done using viruses. As most of you know, the AIDS virus was created. There are others that are coming, including anthrax and bubonic plague. All of these things are coming back new and improved, I'm afraid to say, because there are some really truly crazy people who are in positions of power on our planet. Many of them go back and forth from our planet to the moon. Now, you don't have to buy any of this, and that's okay, but I can tell you this. In the next 10 years you will absolutely know this for a fact. Richard Hoagland will be vindicated. There are ruins on almost all the planets in our solar system. There is life as we speak on Uranus below, right now. There's life. Plant life and animal life. As we speak. It's there. If you want to do something to burst everybody's bubble, get them to send a satellite there. If you have any connections, get them to keep the cameras rolling as it enters the atmosphere. Anyway, I want to talk about genetics. I want to read you something that I was given in August 1996, and it took me quite a while to get it down, and it's about genetics. Apparently we all had copper-based blood systems at one time. All of our physiology was based on copper. We were all blue bloods. We were all royalty. In fact, we still are royalty. It's just that our physiology is not working the same. The reason it isn't is that apparently because of a nuclear war that occurred here. One of the nuclear wars that occurred here. Now, why Earth? First, it's a really beautiful place. It's not the only planet that has water. When you listen to the scientists talk about the different moons that have water on them, you have to ask yourself, where did the water come from? If you have a moon that has no atmosphere, how did the water get there? Because it wasn't always there. It wasn't always like that. It had an atmosphere. They were moved. Even Earth was moved from its orbit, twice. There is a possibility that they want to do it again. The flood of Noah was a result of the moving of Earth from its original orbit. That is what caused it. We are talking about huge ships that can move planets. They have this technology. But, that's all it is, technology. Apparently, we can do these things with our own minds, if we are disciplined enough and clear-focused in our intent. And, that is exactly what you were taught here at the school, to remember who we originally were before we fell into time and physicality. So, I will read this to you, and your linear time of third density measurement, of 439,231 rotations ago, years, war on a grave scale occurred in your solar system. This aggression occurred against those on your worlds that included not only Uterans, but also those called Nibiru. This invasion of your systems by Orion was led by a queen named Suri. This war was destructive on many levels, frequencies of physicality. We will focus tonight on your Terran physical form. It matters little of those who hear you, Alex, who do not listen. Please share this, regardless of any emotion returned to you in challenge. When your science truly removes their bigotry, they will discover the wisdom of it. What is said here? The last grave conflict was very harmful to your physical form. Many weapons of destruction, many of atom-splitting nuclear weapons have been used. This is the reason for most of your Terran skin tones. We shall explain. Orion was and is most interested in the females of your race. Because of the procreation, reproductive, and genetic strengths. We want to share the fact that much of your Terran history has been misleading in its truth by those who eventually conquered in control of your solar system. Those in control rewrote history to hide the truth. Nibiru won, but only a short battle. Before they and other outposts were forced to leave the solar system because of genetic damage. Your original races were green-skinned. This we know, because of large copper traces in your Terran 22 blood type refers to the composite of human genetics, which comprise genetic codes from 22 humanoid species. Also, the pituitary and thyroid glands were fully functional at that time. The genetic damage to these organs was caused by the radioactivity in the air and all things of contact on all things in the environment. The air was like this for a long time. The radioactivity in the environment caused the genetic memory of these organs, genetic memory of full use capacity, being closed and almost atrophied, caused the function of the organs to shut down and the organs to atrophy. Your world experienced drastic changes in climate and massive magnetic fluctuations. Your different skin tone races are a result of an edema damage to your blood, changes in blood chemistry. It was, then, necessary for survival to create self-sufficient and contained environmental habitats, both above and below the surface. Now folks, this is what the Garden of Eden was. It was an artificially created environmental habitat. It's like what Richard Hoagland has been talking about. You build a dome and then you terraform underneath it. It's exactly what these were. Much of the fossilization of your Terran remnants is caused by this radiation of your planet. Here they imply that ambient radiation plays a part in fossilization processes. Your system contained 3 suns at that time. Only 2 remain. One is on the opposite side of the visible sun, and rotates in such a way that it is hidden from view from the perspective of the Earth. Your physicality body in its original form contained a great balance of zinc, copper, magnesium and iron. Your true, original blood color was green, like your chlorophyll. Some, we have discovered, even had blood of a gold tint. As such, at that time, your physicality body could survive in a high carbon dioxide content atmosphere. Because of this skin color green, the only stars in your system that affected your physical form were in the color spectrum of orange, red, blue and green. Now, think about that. If you can picture in your mind that everything is a holograph, which is a group of frequencies. Many of your Terran races were stranded on the surface. The genetic changes were the result of radiation damage. Your race, skin color, went from green, to red, Native Americans, Egyptians and Mayans, to yellow, Asians, to black, Afro-Americans and Africans, and then to white. Your white races were then considered to be genetically weakest. Now, this puts a whole new light on prejudice, doesn't it? I know the Nazis aren't happy about this. It's just as well. I don't like them anyway. As such, the survivors and descendants of the war were genetically altered and became white through edema. He means anemia. And they were persecuted and were forced to live underground, only to surface 5,508 rotations years ago to the surface of your world. Now, somebody had read this on the Leading Edge website and sent me an email message that said that the white race had appeared somewhere out of the mountains of Tibet, some time ago. I don't know if that's true or not, but I'll ask Val. The copper bloodline is now a small race on your world. Note, he has to be referring to the blue blood self-declared nobility, but it is the strongest genetically. Your native red nation race is very strong and easiest to discover and understand. This might explain the penchant for abduction of those with red genetic bloodlines, and also the relative genocidal murder of the red races by the white, because if you are a coward, you suppress what you consider to be stronger than yourself. Of course, many of us don't do much about this, and say, I don't want to get involved, it's their problem and their issue. We owe it to them to get involved. We owe it to ourselves. The red is the closest to the original form among you. Your physicality had a natural defense to positive and negative frequencies due to the copper mineral in your blood, resistance to electromagnetic variation. This lack now of copper in your blood has caused a partial loss of brain capacity and nervous system capacity. Remember that your DNA contains cellular memory. It is possible to unlock this memory with the use of minerals such as copper. Your blood systems are adapted now to iron because of copper depletion due to ambient radiation. We will share more, but we must return now. Beat 1. Alex. Human evolutionary stages of development. I have talked with Morani and Vises about maturity and how to grow. When all of this started, they didn't tell me that I would be speaking to people, or that I would be required to speak. That's because I didn't read the fine print on the contract. You have to read the fine print, folks. Do yourself a favor. Anyway, I wanted to read to you what they told me about the stages a human being goes through in development. Now, this doesn't apply to only us. There are human beings everywhere, not only on our plane of physicality, but also on other planes. I want you to know that even though you may not see them, there is a physicality on the other planes. It's not a situation where there are whispering little clouds, with a light breeze, and if you're lucky one will blow through you and say, "Hello, how are you?" That's not what it is. It's a lot more complicated than that. So, these are the evolutionary stages a human being goes through: the wondering, where we come from, why, our purpose, and gathering our tools. Initiation, preparing our own path, each one different and hopefully centering. Honoring, understanding the source of our creation. Recognizing the sacred in oneself. I guess that is exactly what you are being taught here at the school, how to recognize your sacredness. Stating intention, realizing and acknowledging one's true purpose to create self. Surrender, letting go of control to allow vulnerability. To learn what is already known. Embrace our own darkness, walking into the unknown parts of self. Being and becoming the void. Lighting the flame in the heart, connecting to self and finding meaningful, honest, ritual. Transformation, climbing the ladder of self-responsibility, to hold a vision of being oneness, being the vision that alters all perception. Becoming human, empathy and compassion toward all. Being in truly responsible relationships. And folks, I have learned that for me, that is the secret of life, relationships, because they all mirror back part of us. Walking the path, integrating all of life's experiences. Being a teacher by being. Service, discarding the illusion of separateness. Total approach to life and humility and joy. The worship of the isness. The worship of the isness is the creation of self. The isness is their concept of creator, what we refer to as God. I don't like to use the connotation God much anymore because our perception of it here is based on biblical teachings, and the God in the Old and New Testaments are both extraterrestrials. They're not the big guy. The big gal, sorry. The issue of fear. Fear is a big issue. Not in this room but outside this room it is. It is with me on bad days, you know. So, it would like to share with you their perspective of fear and trying to understand it, in your time and space at present, is a great challenge to you all. That would be the expression of fear. For any of you to be in fear is to lack clear understanding of most situations. We have observed on your world that your world is at a most confused point in history and evolvement. We understand your remarkable drive and commitment to be alive, survival. We, however, are not understanding of your need to create tools of death, expecting that they will keep all in a space of understanding and peace. We have observed that you build, create and plan in a space of fear, not in a consciousness of love, so your defensive position of institutions that create and employ are always then in a state of unraveling and disintegration. We share this with you, because they drain you and your earth of energy, both the spiritual and materially physical. Fear always has to feed. Fear does not create itself. The fear we observe is difficult for us to understand. It depletes you of the focus on the original intent. Now, they refer to this a lot, but they have never come out and said what the original intent was, but I suspect it is that definition I read you in the beginning. It is elusive. It's a very secretive energy. Fear withholds love. This is most saddening to see and feel. How can we share understanding and love, when so many of you are withholding from self and each other? Please try to feel the words. We as a race are trying to express to your race that one of your original intentions in creating your physical reality is the idea of creating and learning to manipulate and express yourselves through physicality, using your consciousness. It is your consciousness that is the gift of the isness. That the isness has given you, and in fact all things that bear spirit. It is the gift that has been clouded, and most importantly, clouded by fear. This creation of fear is completely irrational to who you all are. Fear, as we ourselves at one time as Larn ancestors, sought to defend and legitimize withholding of love. We have come to understand that withholding love only creates perpetual disintegration. We have discovered in our own galaxy the ruins of vast races, having achieved recognition, that have ceased to exist. They destroyed themselves, simply because they withheld love and drained the very life force out of their intent, and imploded and destroyed their self-creation. Fear is the opposing projection to original intent. The first projection of fear is denial, and emotion of incredible restriction. As a restriction, denial and fear will result in the complete opposite realities that which it claims to be. Fear is based, in our perspective, on a misunderstanding of one's own worth and security. Why is this so? We have formed a perspective, based on your history. Your many religions have helped and hurt this process. Some of your world beliefs have many convinced that they are sinful creatures of nature. Now, I just want to add something here. In one of my conversations with Moreni, the word sin came up. I brought it up. I was born and raised a Catholic, so I was fully indoctrinated. He told me that the word sin is a word that is pre-Sumerian, and that the word sin originally meant genetic defect. So, maybe that will help you with a perspective when you read the Bible again. If you should read it again. Let me start this over again. Some of your world beliefs have many convinced that they are sinful creatures of nature. Your scientists teach that your physical form is a pool of chemicals thrown together by accident, so that you are all an accident, living meaningless lives of chance. Editor note: here we see the expression of the Darwinian and Malthusian paradigms that orthodoxy consistently thrusts on the public as belief systems. Folks, the first group of ETs are not going to be benevolent, but they are going to pass themselves off as benevolent, and they are going to be telling you that we are their creation, and that they own us because they created us. The fact of the matter is that they didn't. It's another lie, and the first group that gets here will probably be those from Sirius B that will be openly contacting us. Editor note: several contactees in November '96 are purporting to convey information from the Federation are dealing with those from Sirius B, who have been among those conveying advanced manipulative technology to world power factions for at least 3 decades, and who are known to participate in the abduction and manipulation of humans. They're full of shit, okay? The game continues, and a lot of people are going to fall for it because the Earth will be going through changes, and they'll come down and say, "We'll save you," and "this is the way," and so on and so forth. Basically what they are going to do is to use our free will against ourselves. Because that is all you have, is your free will. It's the only true sovereignty you have in this holograph we call existence. You are because you wanted to be. It's that simple. And, if you don't want to be, you can change that too. But, it's your decision. Let's continue with what they had to say. You fear a God whom a book says is a loving and forgiving God, who will eternally throw you into an abyss for making mistakes. This creates serious dysfunction, don't you think? You think, which way do I go? And you do nothing. It is in our perspective that this is where this fear of unworthiness and insecurity is created from. Many in your world, Alex, have come to understand that fear, and the idea of fear, is their enemy. All of you struggle between understanding and fear, and reason and fear. Please, we ask you to share this with your race. This struggle is in no way predetermined. Our perception is that this struggle will lead your world to either peace and self-responsibility, or to extinction as a race. This would grieve us. It's time to return you now. I was given this information on February 9, 1991. So, in dealing with the reflections that Moreni and Vises have given me about our race, it has been difficult to want to come back here, especially when I've seen how they treat each other. Now, I lived with them for 3 months in 1986. But in our linear time I was only gone 18 minutes. Time travel is a great thing. The first time I was brought on an Andromedan mothership, which was 900 miles in diameter and completely self-contained worlds, I had to wear a belt that would keep my physicality together, so that I could spend this time with them. The craft I was on hit 24 different levels, and in the middle of this craft is a park that is 21 miles on each side, with trees and everything. They use extensive technology in holographs, and they can literally create their sunrise and sunset. The trees and plants grow, because it is a holograph, but it is real, even though they are creating it with technology. They teach their children in the middle of these parks. Everything is done in nature, very much like the Native Americans used to do. The first time I walked on the ship, down a corridor and into this huge space, the children that were there moved away from me. I was really hurt, and Moreni said to me, "It isn't you. We have been teaching them about your rays." They were afraid of us. Editor note: I asked Alex later to clarify this, and the fear the children felt was intellectual in nature, and intellectual avoidance. The Zenithal rays from Andromeda are in essence like a race of little sparks and do not react in the same way Earth humans do. To the children, I represented our rays. I do the best I can, but I have my own stuff to work out too. So, they are learning, and I am amazed that they still want to come back here and help. Another time, I had been waiting for them and they finally showed up, and as I was walking into the control room, as I was being led by another Andromedan, Moreni was looking at a bunch of monitoring devices on the wall that were analyzing our atmosphere, and he looked concerned. I said to him, "What's the matter?" He just pointed to the atmosphere and said, "Don't they understand that it's here because they needed it? They don't understand our suicidal tendencies. I guess they have the perspective that we should really know better. I don't know where they got that idea." Another time, Vyses was monitoring television broadcasts, and he had been watching a news broadcast about a shooting in Chicago, where a policeman shot a black man and then rushed over and tried to save his life. He had a hard time trying to understand why the policeman would try to take the life and then try to save him. He didn't understand the contradiction, and I don't know that they still have dealt with that. You know, that which we accept as reality is extremely foreign in concept to a lot of other different races. They simply don't understand it, and there's no way we could truly rationalize it to them, when they themselves come from a space of unconditional love and mutual respect. I have not done a good job in trying to explain it to them, because when I really stop to think about it, it doesn't make any sense to me either. So, as Vol would say, it's time for a new paradigm. I guess that is what is going on here at the school with you, those before you and those that will come after you. What makes a human being? I have given a lot of thought to our race, and the character issues, and I just want to share with you some of my thoughts on the human race, and about people. A lot of this comes from my own experience, dealing with us. Oh, a human being whose heart shows no passion is a person who doesn't have a life. Oh, a human being who doesn't give from the heart is a person who will lie to you. Oh, a human being whose heart is committed to nothing is a person who will not try, but will only take. Oh, a human being who is not willing to risk or take chances for love is a person who is absolutely empty inside, already dead. I have come to these conclusions because of my relationship with Moreni and Vyses. I absolutely love these two beings. They are my fathers, my brothers, my friends, and in some respect even my sons, because I have had the opportunity to teach them. Most humans haven't a clue about what's happening. You know, there is so much information out there that is totally bogus. I went to the Star Visions conference. There was a guy there who had some pictures of a craft, and he said that he has been in contact with the Syrians, and he mentioned Sirius B. Then he went on to make a speech in which he said that Jesus Christ is a starship commander who lives on Earth underground in a place called Valley of the Echoes, and that they are coming back. There will be a war and that those who are not in favor of Jesus would be destroyed. The people there gave this guy a standing ovation. I'm not kidding. They have this guy a standing ovation. It was really sad, because these people don't have a clue. They don't want to take responsibility. They can totally thwart this war. We don't have to do anything about this as long as we started working and learning to live with each other, granting mutual respect, having natural tolerance for our race. I know it's not easy, because of all the conditioning, but folks, I need your help. I desperately need your help. We don't need to create the Book of Revelations, but that is exactly what is being done. There are beings out there that have technology that are more than happy to help us play this thing out, because we are a threat to them. The reason we are a threat to them is because of not only who you are spiritually, but also because our genetics. Our physically is a combination of the human extraterrestrial and the primate race. This melding is what has given us our incredible extremes of emotion, which is why we can hold so much creative energy inside of us. This is why the Andromedans are in awe of our creative energy and why they are so concerned. They have to use technology to create some of their physicality. We don't. They are amazed that when you leave your house everything is still there when you come back. It doesn't disintegrate. Now, if you live in South Los Angeles, perhaps you have to worry about your stuff not being there. They are amazed at that. The intent and the energy it takes to create all the little things that you have on your shelf. They are amazed. They don't have all the little stuff that we have. According to the Andromedans, and other races who have discovered this, in our holographic universe, there are 11 layers or densities, and now apparently there is a 12th. This is their perspective. They say that we fell into time and physicality, and many of the other extraterrestrial races are fascinated by what it is that we know, locked up inside of us. Because, we have already evolved to that level and came back to start over again. They don't have access to what they think we know, which is apparently locked up inside of us. Not only that, but apparently we specifically chose this physicality and its vibration because it is able to hold such an extreme of emotions. When you couple idea with the idea that this physicality is also made up of 22 races, including the Andromedan race, they say that every single one of you is royalty on this planet. They say that many of the other extraterrestrial races, particularly the benevolent ones, acknowledge this, because of the fact that we are spirit and we have these genetics inside of the bodies we are using. The dark ones, which include the gray men, see us as beasts because of the primate component. They say, how can we allow this to surpass us? This is why there is constant genetic and mental manipulation here. The negatives are concerned that once we move out of our prison of third density that we will radically change everything. We will. I don't know about you, but I need a change. The Andromedans told me that I am one of 4 contactees, and that apparently more will be added in the very near future. I hope some of that has to do with my griping. I have bitched and moaned. There are not enough people to do this. The reason that I and the other 3 people were chosen in the first round is because that apparently when they were here 62,300 years ago and had a colony here for 65 years, I was one of them that was here. There was a battle and they were chased out of here, and my body was killed. So, I know that I am from another place. In fact, all of you here are. Your souls were not born and hatched here. I can tell you that. They say that our universe, in terms of our reckoning of linear time, is a 21 trillion-year-old hologram. They also say that there are 100 trillion galaxies in this universe, including all dimensions. 100 trillion. And some people still don't think there's life out there. I don't know what to do with folks like that, you know? I have some really good friends that I work with that are very good people, very awesome people, full of integrity, but they are convinced that there is going to be a rapture and that they don't have to do anything but just wait. God, that pisses me off. I mean, there is so much to do and they are just going to sit on their butt and wait? I said to one guy, suppose he changes his mind. He says, well, he couldn't do that. I said, is he God? He said, yes. Well. I said, then he could. Oh, God, I am so frustrated. You know, I feel the pressure of things starting to get tighter and smaller, and it's really great to see all of you here. I was very disillusioned last weekend, and I basically said to myself, that's it, I'm fed up, I've had it. I even thought about not coming here to give this talk, because I was just so burned out. Well, you know folks, it isn't easy working these 2 worlds. You know? Yes, I know that you know. Right. I forgot who I was talking to. And, well, there are times that I go out for walks at night and I try and call them down, and they don't always come. And, I look at my wife and I say to myself, do I need to put all of my energy into this? Can I do both? There are times when I truly wrestle with where it is I want to be. Because the 2 realities are so extreme. When I go up with them, I am so free I can't even put it into words. When I come back, there's the phone bill, the electric bill, the gas bill, the car payments, the insurance dash, all these little things, and I say to myself, God, they really have the right idea, they keep it all really simple. All their energy goes into creating themselves. They are not distracted by all this other stuff. I wrestle with it a lot. I haven't come to a conclusion yet. I'll keep you posted. Human children being taken off the planet each year. Some of the missing children on this planet have not only been taken by the Greys, by Orion, but also by the Pleiadians. Now, apparently in the systems in Aldebaran, there are human Terran colonies. The Pleiadians have taken human children from here. When I asked Moreni if they had permission to do this, he said, no, there were many broken hearts left behind. Okay, again, whatever the justification is, it's still a violation of free will. And that's how you have to measure somebody else's actions. Sirius has also been doing this. There were many children taken underground, not only by our government. Many of the children were eaten. I want you to know that the Andromedans have confirmed this. Ladies and gentlemen, these children are our future, whatever it is going to be. They are our future. You've got to protect your families. The family is the target. Because it will pull the rug out from underneath our society in a heartbeat. A lot of people, even if they are cowards, find their strength in their families. When that doesn't exist, we have big-time problems. Children are leaving this planet at the rate of at least 100,000 per year from all over the world, and you're not hearing about it. The implosion of the corrupt United States government in 1997. They are just being taken out of here, and some of the ETs feel they have a right to do it. Basically, this reflects a deal that was cut with the world governments. I wanted to share that with you because it might help you when things totally start to unravel. For those of you who are Americans, you are about to witness the great implosion of the United States government, starting after April 1997. It is going to just start to unravel next year. The lies and truths are going to start to come out, and people are going to be blown away at how corrupt your government is. Well, maybe not you. Again, I forgot who I was talking to. You have to understand, I don't usually talk to an educated crowd like this. This is really a treat for me. I mean, you guys are just awesome. The Andromedan holographic language. Let's look at some of the holographic language symbols of the Andromedans. Now, remember that you have to pull these symbols up off the board into three-dimensional form and be able to move all the way around them. I am not an expert on how holographs work, but in these holographs, if you could see them physically all the way around, is contained information. This symbol, when given holographically to another race, totally tells them everything about the Andromedan race, H1 apparently. We are supposed to be able to do that, and apparently do, but we don't understand how it works. This is the symbol for love or mutual respect, H2. If they were to project this symbol inside of your consciousness, and this one symbol would be everything they know about mutual respect? See, it's simple. It doesn't take 200 pages to explain love. There it is. This is the symbol for Earth physicality. H3. When they give this symbol, it contains our entire Earth history. Again, you lift this symbol off and look at it dimensionally. Underneath it, above it, and inside is contained information. This is the symbol for war or confrontation, H4. This is a much more complicated symbol for the Earth races, H5. Now, this next symbol should be interesting for you. It is supposed to represent peace, H6. More on the upcoming dimensional changes. Okay, a couple things that I was asked to go over again was the implosion of third density and what that entails, because I sort of skimmed over it. So, I will share with you what I have been told. Now, some of you may understand the physics of this better than I do. According to the Andromedans, 21 trillion years ago, as we are in linear time, apparently all of us as a senses, sparks of spirit, were someplace else in a completely different reality. What they say happened is that the Big Bang Theory is basically correct in its simplicity, but the physical part that we know was the last of the realms created in what we call our universe. When I refer to the term universe, I want you to know that I am talking about all of the 11 creational densities, or planes. What they say happened was that all the black holes were created because wherever we were, that universe began to evolve, and as it evolved, those of us who were not ready to evolve literally gained weight in mass. In gaining weight, we started to fill black holes, and at some point when this other universe evolved to a certain frequency, those of us that did it broke out of those black holes and created the space, which we now call our universe. What we are witnessing, 21 trillion years later, is the same thing happening. What is happening now in our universe is that according to Moreni and Visais on March 23, 1994, a color and sound frequency started emanating out of all the black holes. The color and sound literally, in its unified effect, is attaching to all of the densities, or planes. What is happening is that it is raising all the frequencies, pulling everything up from the bootstraps. It is literally creating another holograph above the existing 11 creational densities. They are calling this newly generated holograph the 12th single quote, and the reason is because it is both unified and separate from the others. They have been told by other races that there are beings of a type of consciousness never seen before inside this single quote 12th single quote plane, and that these beings literally have the ability to look straight down through all the dimensional levels. What's happening is that third density is beginning to implode because as the frequency of third density matter starts to rise, those that choose to evolve will pass out of here. There are a greater number that are in fear of this that will not evolve. Because we are spirit, nothing ever dies. What is happening is that there are black holes being created, literal dips in physicality being created where souls will be gathering in these spaces so that they can continue to evolve by literally creating another space. Unfortunately, one of these areas, dips, is between us and the Sirian system, which is why there is so much crap coming our way. Okay? You have a front row seat. And all I can say is bless them as they make the transition, because we have been there before, all of us. I have been told that on our planet that literally the probability is that there will only be 400 million of us making this transition. It's a sad thing. It would be nice if it was everybody. When you get to fifth density, look for the house with the mailbox with balloons. That's my house. I love everything there, sandwiches. You just show up. Intervention changes reality for everyone. Going back to the genetic information I was sharing with you concerning the primate race, and because of our apparent senses deciding to come back and start this thing all over again, what is happening is apparently our DNA can vibrate, because of our ability to hold the extremes of emotion inside of us, at such a frequency that we can literally take our experiences from here, and part of our physicality, into the fifth plane. When this happens, we will radically change what the Andromedans know. People are always saying, why don't the Andromedans intervene? There's more to it than that, because when they come down here and commingle with us, it not only changes our reality but it changes their reality. A little piece of us goes back with them. Suppose a lot of you go into fifth density and decide to go to the Andromedan galaxy. We all march into Andromeda together. Their civilization and reality will never be the same. This factor is precisely why many of the races, particularly the benevolent ones, are coming back. They want a heads up. They want to know what to expect. They want to know who we are. Do you follow what I am trying to say? Now, the negative civilizations have everything really nice where they live. They have everything under control and they have their caste systems. They don't want any of us who may be originally from the Orion system going in there and wreaking havoc with their control systems and start teaching people about free will and freedom. They don't want that. Just because they are at another level doesn't mean they are all that evolved. There is still crap there, too. They have a vested interest in control systems. Control factors. They don't want anybody to be rocking the cart, especially a race they consider to be beasts. What is really interesting is that they created their own undoing. They really did, by tinkering with everything. All it would really take would be one of you to go in and change one of these systems, just your frequency alone. So, you truly are royalty. You guys are just awesome, and the war that's coming is about all of that. It is because there are benevolent races that want our experience and our DNA. They want our emotions. They want us to be teachers, because many of the benevolent races have lost their passion. The Greys originally thought emotion was a weakness, so they literally bred it out, and now they as a species are dying, and they are totally stuck on technology. They are not having children anymore, because of the lack of passion in the body. The spirit cannot attach to the physical form. There are also other races like this with the same problem. There are other races, the Palladians for example, that in 982 years will start to show genetic breakdown, because of so much interbreeding. We are seen as a booster, because we have their genetics within us as well as the passion, and the ability to hold passion, which is an awesome creative force. So, there are some that really want us to be there, higher density, and there are some that are terrified at the prospect of us being there. That's really what all this is about. Effects between now and 2013 are long-term. The effect of what is going on between now and 2013 are long-term. Apparently, almost 400 years into our future there is tyranny. So, what happens here now is of major consequence. Because who we are. Whatever we do here on third density moving into fifth density, we will literally change as all the dimensions above us in a domino effect all the way up, because it was apparently where we came from before we moved into physicality here. So, we have to be responsible. There is a much bigger agenda here, and I am sure that there is a lot more that I don't know that someone else in the future will bring up. You have to be private investigators, detectives, and I know that there is so much information out there, and so much junk, but you're literally going to weed through it yourselves. No one has all the answers. No one. There might be some that more of the pieces of the puzzle. But the bottom line is that every single one of you in this room, even the people outside the room who aren't here, sharing this, who have no clue and think E.T. is a joke, have a piece of the puzzle. They just may not be able to bring their piece of the puzzle when we move to fifth density. What is going to happen in the next 10 years? You're going to be busy. A lot is going to happen in the next 10 years. Q. When is the dimensional collapse starting? It's already starting. What you're going to start hearing about in the near future are something called rods. These will be something that will be videotaped. What you will see will be large streaks shooting through the earth that are etheric in nature but will be captured on tape. What you will be seeing is fourth and fifth density craft moving through space, not having the slightest clue that they are flying right through us. That's because at that point you are beginning to see the implosion. You'll also see more ghosts and apparitions, because those that are stuck between fourth and fifth density will become more visible as our frequency starts to increase. A lot of them, unless they are healed and set free from their self-imposed prisons, will be exiting, transitioning. The human concept of angels. Angels. Folks, be very careful about someone who tells you they're an angel. Now, I have asked about the concept of archangels, and the Andromedan perspective is that the Archangel Michael was literally a fleet of craft that were called Michel. That was the name of the fleet, and they used to patrol the northern hemisphere of the planet when the Orion group was here in full force. The name Gabriel was the name of another fleet of craft, and so on. It has been changed and manipulated into the appearance of a concept that will save you and rescue you, when in fact it was not the original intent at all. More on the next 10 years. What will happen in the next 10 years? I will definitely share this with you. There are some things under the Sphinx, but the bulk of the real material that will tell us about our ancient history is still underneath the pyramid. There was a vault built that was 3 levels deep, and the pyramid was built over it. That's where the real juice is. The Sphinx will have some things, but it is a distraction. These guys are real good at what they do, at diverting attention from reality and truth. If they put that much energy into telling the truth, my God, we'd all be out of here. During the next 10 years we will be finding out who we are genetically. Information will be coming from all corners of the earth from contactees. There will be more and more contacts, and they will tell us about the 22 races and more of our history. There will also be massive earth changes. They will start with a magnetic pole shift, which could happen anytime between now and the year 2001. Things have been sped up. We are already starting to see the magnetic pole shift as we see birds migrate in the wrong direction at the wrong time of year. The birds move along the magnetic grid lines. On the meaning of the use of feathers by Native Americans. I wanted to share something with you. I am very fascinated with the Native Americans, and I love to collect feathers when I find them on my journeys and vision quests. I was given this information on March 19, 1994, and I just wanted to share this with you. It's primarily about the Native Americans and the original intent behind them wearing the feather. In the ancient way, you Native Red American races understood the nature of the birds. Birds are very sensitive to magnetic fields and microwave energy, as you call it. They will migrate along the Earth energy grids, and their wings, which are made up primarily of feathers, were to be watched, as they were very sensitive. To watch and follow the birds is to know which way the Earth's magnetic flows are moving. The Native American races would also camp off apart from these magnetic flows because the radiation would become harmful in time. The feathers are very sensitive to energy fields, magnetic fields, and are in fact a type of antenna. The feather would attract telepathic communication with all the tribe. As the chief would think or quietly discuss plans, the rest of the tribe would in the ancient days receive the message, with few or no words. Isn't that cool? Now, what is really interesting is that most of our cities are built on the magnetic grids. There are a lot of folks sick in the inner cities. There is a lot of turmoil in the inner cities, because we're not in balance. Of course, they persecuted the Indians because their knowledge was not like ours. The quiet science of archaeology has, and will, discover more and more of our ancient history, including extraterrestrial civilizations. There is going to be the acknowledgement of a temple complex that belonged to Lemuria that is apparently still intact, lying approximately 150 miles southwest of Easter Island. I am told it is huge, and that the Russians already know it's there. They have photographed it and explored it using submarines. I know you guys already know this, but in general they are going to discover that consciousness is not in the brain, but is located in its entirety in the energy field or aura around the body, and that the energy field is the 4 to 14 ounces the body loses at the moment of death. I know you guys know that. Okay, Alphos. Apparently, there have been discussions among benevolent councils, and I will only speak for the Andromedan Council because that is what Marini has told me, that they have told all of the negative extraterrestrials in and on our planet, and the moon, to be out of here no later than August 12, 2003. I have also been told that there is a very high probability that we could wake up some morning in that area of time and our moon will not be there. That is because the moon is the first stage of defense, and that they will literally hit it with a tractor beam and pull it out of orbit if they are going to do battle. If they were to attack the negatives on the moon in order to get in here, and the moon were to explode, the fragments would impact the Earth. When I first talked about this, there were some people who were very upset about this, saying, "What about the ocean and the waves, and my moon cycle? And all this other stuff." So, I went back to Marini and said, "Well, I have some gripes about the moon." He said, "Well, we'll just get you another one." I said, "You'll make sure it won't be hollow?" He said, "Yes." So, apparently all that would really happen is that the oceans would essentially become lakes. We wouldn't have the tides and probably the crazy attitudes. I have asked them about the subject of astrology. I want you to know that this is their perspective. Their perspective is that it is not accurate, and that the purpose for charting the stars was because they needed to know the magnetic flows and star systems for space travel. Somehow, that was taken and made into an entirely new belief system. You knew that. Maybe I should sit out there. That's an option. You guys are so far from Colorado. Let's do some questions. Questions and answers. Q. Alex, why did the Andromedans and the Council decide to give the ultimatum to the Ets at a specific time, and why did some of the Council rebel? What is going to happen when everything is turned off? AC, apparently, the reason why they want to help and so many others want to help is because in your genetics you have a frequency that is attached to different races. I have a frequency that is attached to Andromeda. Just because I may move into another space and time, there is a part of me that is still attached to them. There is a degree of non-evolution because of the law of consistency. We all don't move together. At some point, our entire universe including all of the dimensions will implode and we will all go home to the source. This one of the reasons why. The other is because of our genetics. We have something they need, as well. Apparently, when they first met to discuss our solar system, which is along a trade route which moves into the Andromedan galaxy, there were approximately 72 of the 133 planets that met. Just more than half of them agreed to look into it and to help us. The other planetary races didn't want to help us, because from their perspective we don't respect our home, we don't respect themselves and we don't respect each other. From their perspective, what is our value? I cried when I heard this, because I couldn't make any excuse. This is how a bunch of other races look at us. Fortunately, a majority agreed to help because of the long-term consequences. Basically, that is why they are here. Also, 400 years into our linear future there is tyranny in our galaxy, and somehow we are directly connected to that event. So, in one way they are really looking out for their own best interests by making sure that something is cleaned up here. They know that as long as the other extraterrestrials are here and continue to manipulate us, we won't move. So, they have to be removed. I asked them, would you do it by force? They said, we would have to. What they would do is enter the Earth through the openings at the poles and flush everybody out to the surface. So folks, when you see a reptilian crossing the highway, don't run over him. Just get out of the way. I mean, it could get really weird here in the next 6 to 8 years. I mean, you can only hide the truth for so long and then it just screams out, and they are already trying to prepare you for this stuff. A friend told me about a television show called Dark Skies, where they are literally telling you, but they are doing it in such a way that you think it's just television. I don't watch television, but I always hear about it. Q. Are you familiar with the book called The Greatest Story Never Told by Lana Cantrell, where she describes us having a green skin and having blood that is copper-based, and where she described all these color changes that we went through, based on her research? Did the Andromedans tell you anything that would help us go back to the former color? We apparently used to have multi-strand DNA. Do you know anything about that? AC, I have heard of the book, but I heard it is out of print, and I understand that Miss Cantrell does not return letters. She is just basically in hiding for whatever her reasons are. As far as the DNA, I have been told that those of us who are holding a higher frequency are literally creating a third strand. Most of the children coming in since 1982 already have a third strand. So, this is nature's way of fixing things as long as we're open to it. Q. How can we help ourselves? AC. I have asked that question, and all Moreni has said is that the information and wisdom already exists on our planet. So, we must ask ourselves about ourselves. Q. I wonder if you could talk more about the Draconians and the children that are missing? I know you have information, and I am hoping you will share it with us today. AC. This is the one subject I don't like to talk about. The Draconians are a very large reptilian race, otherwise known as the Dracs. There is a royal line of the reptilian race called the Chiakar. They range from 14 to 22 feet tall and can weigh up to 1,800 pounds. They have winged appendages and they are awesome beings. They are extremely clairvoyant and extremely clever, and they can also be extremely sinister. They apparently were brought by someone to our time and space, our universe, in full physicality, and dumped here. I don't know who. They were taken to Alpha Draconis because the nature of that place gave them the best chance of survival. So, they were kicked out of some other place. They are a major factor to be reckoned with. They are for the most part service to self and do not care for the human race, because when they were dumped here they were told that this universe was theirs to command. So, whoever did this really screwed up. They still have this mindset. They were one of the first races to chart our solar system, and in fact they were the first race to state that our solar system belonged to them. Apparently, some of them still have the attitude that everything in this solar system belongs to them, and I understand that some of them have been coming back, and that more of them will be coming back. It's going to get real interesting, folks. I can't begin to tell you how interesting it's going to get. They have had space travel for 3 billion years, and they are a remarkable race. But, they have an attitude, and a lot of human races inside and outside our galaxy have had problems with them. I don't want to say that all of them are like this, but that is all I have heard from the Andromedans about them. They look like a 22-foot-tall velociraptor, and they are smart, intelligent and very different from us. They apparently at one time came across human colonies in Lyrae. Now, the human race, per se, was not created in the Lyran system. It was brought there to survive. And again from what the Andromedans have told me, for some reason once they go back 427 million years, they just don't know what else is there. For some reason, although the physicality is there is no history of races before that. At least, that they know of, in the Lyran system. Anyway, the Draconians were flying through there or came across these human colonies, which were agricultural in nature. Because of their talents in horticulture, these humans were making the planets better, like gardens. When the Draconians came and saw this incredible wealth of food, they basically wanted to control it. Apparently there was a misunderstanding. The Lyrans wanted to know more about the Draconian race before they gave them what they wanted, and apparently the Draconians misunderstood this request, went back and attacked the planets, blew 3 of them up and killed a lot of people. The Lyrans were forced to migrate and scatter into different parts of our galaxy. So, the action did facilitate colonization, although I wrestle with whether the Draconians were planted here specifically to force us to evolve, or that there is some other agenda here. I do know that there are other reptilian races that are descendants of the Draconians, and many of them are master geneticists. I am told that most of the dinosaurs were brought here, and to Mars, where they came first. Our current human form was crafted on Mars, where the primate and human genes were combined, and then brought to Earth to work as slaves in the mines. So, we were still working for a paycheck. They enjoy human flesh, and human children best, for 2 reasons. The first is that children don't have the accumulation of pollutants in their bodies that adults do, and when children are put into a state of fear, their energy and field and adrenaline just explodes. The reptilians get a rush from this stuff. You know, be dedicated to family and to each other. That's the only way we are going to get through all of this. Q. What is it about the human mind that causes some species to want to suppress us so much? What is it that is so unique to the genetic makeup? Do they have free will in the same way we do? AC. I don't know that it is so much our minds as it is our extremes of emotions in our essence. They have always stressed that the containment of emotion in physical form is what is most attractive, because they want this due to their loss of passion, and as a result they have become more dependent on technology. Here we are, getting deeper and deeper into physicality, when in fact we have the ability to just leave all of this behind. So, we are not correctly using our power as a race. We are wasting it. As far as our free will is compared to the free will of other races, it is one and the same. It's just that we don't as a population have the realization of the power of our collective free will. We don't totally realize the sovereignty that our free will gives us. That is why they are manipulating us through belief systems in order to try and get us to relinquish our free will, by coercing us to use our own free will against us and ask them to come down here and control us. It's a choice. Q. What about implants? AC. As far as implants are concerned, what I do know is that there are a lot of races that have been abducting people and putting implants into them, and it is a sign or seal of ownership. Okay? They feel that they own you. Now, the Greys have done this a lot, because the United States government gave them permission to do it. We were sold out, basically. I do know that many of the implants can be neutralized using a very strong ultraviolet light. Q. Have the Andromedans given you any signposts that we might recognize on a cultural level that might indicate that certain changes are about to happen? AC. Well, the earthquakes are signs and volcanic activity is a sign. In cultural terms, when you start to see large groups of people resigning from world government, that will be your biggest sign that the shit is about to hit the fan. Many of our world leaders have been promised shelter in underground facilities, and some have been promised shelter even on the moon. And folks, there are bases on the moon that have been built by the United States, Russia and the British, using British money. I suggest you keep an eye on Prince Charles. Q. Why? AC. Just watch. Just watch Q. When you spoke about the transition when going from 4th density to 5th density, how are we going to know that we made the transition? AC. We live in a color spectrum of 72 frequencies. When you get to 5th density, there are 223 color frequencies. You will see colors that you have never seen before and it will be snap. Just like that. You will know that you are there. When McDonald's has purple arches, then you will know. Q. Do the Andromedans have a military, and do they have a financial system anything like ours? AC. No, they have no financial system. Everything that they create technologically is used for the advancement of their race. It is for educational purposes only. But, it can be used in defense. No, they do not have a military, per se, they are scientists. What they do is send their children to school anywhere from 150 to 200 years, in our linear time. They teach their students all of the arts and sciences. They are literally masters at everything. Then, at that point, they have the choice in what it is they want to do, and they can change their minds anytime and do something else. So, they are given all the tools. Everything is for education. Nothing is for distraction. They would never conceive of creating television as a distraction. Never. Everything is to help them evolve, and their science and their technology can be used for defensive purposes, mostly the holographic stuff. Q. I am wondering if you could elaborate on the Draconians and Hale-Bopp a little bit. AC. What I have shared is really all I know. I just know that life is going to be very different here. The media says it is a comet. It's not a comet. I can tell you that it is split into two pieces, and both pieces are rotating around a common axis as it's moving. I have heard, but not confirmed, that an astronomer has seen a large craft that is now flying alongside Hale-Bopp, that is larger than the Earth. So, if it doesn't change course, it's going to be great. All the denial will be gone. Q. I understand the Andromedans have a version of the story of Enki and Enlil, and I wonder if you could tell us anything about that. AC. That's a long answer. Actually, my understanding is that the two brothers have really warred with each other over a lot of other issues. We just happen to be one of them. What they have told me is that Enki was betrayed and killed, and that his body is literally buried inside the face tomb on Mars. Now, whether he has reincarnated again, I don't know. Basically, what we have to deal with right now is Enlil, but fortunately truth is starting to come out about all of that. People are beginning to wake up and realize all the contradictions in the Old Testament, and even some of the contradictions in the New Testament, and they are starting to question, which is a very good sign. You know, Vyses once said to me, it is not so important as to what you believe as it is why you believe it. Whatever your belief is, make sure it is worth your depth of commitment to it. I think what we've done as a race is that we've accepted a lot of things just on face value, without truly investigating it, or trying to feel it inside of us. This habit has gotten us into a lot of trouble. For example, during the Inquisition. The Inquisition was really an attack against women. It was about the sacredness and spirituality held by women. A lot of men got killed because they were supportive of goddess worship. This scenario that you are laying out before us exists on this timeline. What have the Andromedans said about any parallel timeline where this doesn't happen? AC, they haven't said anything. I know that there are parallel realities, and I know that several parallel realities concerning Earth are already in existence on higher octaves above us. I know that on one of these parallel realities the New World Order is already established and exists. The Nazi flag flies over the whole world. I want you to know that as third density begins to implode, that all of those realities will begin moving and merging into this original timeline, which is the reality from which the other ones were created. All the other parallel timelines will be returning to source. The Andromedans have said that the New World Order will come into reality here, but only for a short time as we keep moving. As long as we stick together and help one another, and as long as we have mutual respect for each other, we will not slow down our process as we move up into the higher dimension and consciousness of world unity in our free will. Not being forced at the point of a gun to do it. Not having to relinquish your right to do it. Here in the United States, a lot of people are worried about the Russians, the Hong Kong police and the New World Order. Let me tell you something, folks. You are losing your country in the courtroom every day. It's in the courtroom, with corrupt judges and institutionalized corruption, and will tell you this. If you allow the Congress and the President to take away the Second Amendment, you will lose all your other rights. I don't believe in carrying a gun and killing anyone, but the Founding Fathers knew about corruption, and they knew about tyranny, and the reason the Second Amendment is there is to protect all the other rights. Until we consciously make the shift and change everybody else's perspective, I am afraid from my perspective that it's a necessary evil. But, that's my perspective, okay? You have done so much in so short a time, but you have to understand that when you have a draconian or Orion belief system, there's no such thing as free will and self-rule in their control. The reason we have been able to get away with it for so long is because we are out here on the rim of the galaxy, in the boondocks. They are just now starting to come around and realize that the consciousness of the planet is starting to change. It is what has attracted a lot of the races to this place right now. What also attracted them was our use of nuclear weapons, which not only affect third density, but also fourth and fifth. It sent a shockwave through there, and we were totally irresponsible in our ignorance. We didn't know what we were doing, and that is why a lot of the races begin to show up en masse to find out what was going on down here. Again, I only have pieces of the puzzle. Many of us are wondering how we can make contact that feels safe and loving. I am asked this a lot, and all I can suggest to you is this. You can literally be and create anything you want. If you want contact, then you must create the space for it to happen. Show the intent to do it, and be in integrity. On your tapes you talk about how if we have 10% consensus on the planet that it will be enough to move us through the transition, and you also mention an exercise that they taught you about seeing yourself inside out. I am interested in more information about that. AC, I was given an exercise by them which I do every day. You know, they never give me answers about myself, and it really pisses me off sometimes, because we're Earth humans and we're always looking for shortcuts. Anyway, the exercise was to get myself into a humble, sincere space, and to mentally grab the balls of my feet and literally turn my body inside out, so that everything that was on the outside is inside and everything that was inside is now outside. You know you are doing it right when you suddenly see yourself upside down. Very carefully detach yourself and look at who you are. Just work with it. That's the only exercise they have given me. Do you know if there are exact mathematical ratios, such as phi ratios, in those holographic symbols you showed us before? AC, I have never asked that question before. I will ask for the specific tones, dimensions and frequencies and give them to Vel Valerian, so that he can put it on the web or get it to you. There is a lot of controversy about the use of weapons, especially in light of mutual respect for everyone. Do the Andromedans have a perspective relative to personal weapons and any part they would play in the changes forthcoming? AC, that's a very good question, and not an easy one. They have said that we destroy ourselves in ignorance, and I understand that weapons are not a good idea, and I believe that. However, let's look at the reality that we are in, okay? There have been many holy, spiritual men that have been murdered. They literally went to their death literally holding unconditional love, and that's great. However, and this is my perspective, if somebody is coming in my front door to harm my family, I'm taking them out, and I'll make no bones about it. But, they would have to be coming after my family. The Andromedans are not happy with our society, with any of it, but they realize that we cannot defend ourselves. That is why they and other groups are contemplating intervention, and we do have a serious threat. You can hold the space of love, but at the same time you can hold the space of sovereignty and defiance of tyranny. What good is unconditional love when it is being totally suppressed on the planet? If we take that attitude, don't we then create a situation where we have to come back and do it from the other side? Do we just get caught up in the cause and effect? It could be very possible. I really don't have an answer for that. Like I said, I've got my stuff and I'm working it out. Are the holographic symbols you drew on the board considered a universal language, or are they only part of the Andromedan culture? Also, are the Andromedans taught to focus on those symbols in order to create reality? AC, good question. I do not know if they are universal symbols. Again, I have only met 2 other races along with the Andromedans, and I did not speak with them but I saw them and later was told who they were. One was a group from Cygnus Alpha and the other was a very different looking being from the Cassiopeia system. I did not know the communications that were going on. As far as the symbols are concerned, as far as I know it only involves their language, and it is only one of many forms that they use. I don't know if the other races use the symbols or know about all of them. It could very well be that when the council gets together that they have interpreters who interpret the holographs. I don't know. Please tell us a little about what you have observed on how the Andromedans interact with their children. AC, they treat their children like adults. I understand that they give birth in water, that their gestation period is 8 months, that the children come out and they have full memory of who they were the life before that one. So, there is a continuous evolution, life after life after life. Now, during the period between incarnations, and I don't know if this happens for all beings on 5th density or not, the oldest and the wisest who have the most experience teach the youngest. There is no situation where they withhold anything. This is the law of consistency. The children know everything their parents know, and even more. There is no attitude with the parents, because this is something they want. Their pride is in their race, and I wish we had the same philosophy. When you were with them for 3 months, what did you observe in the park? AC, they would sit in circles. Again, they are telepathic, so they would just be in circles, and you would see them nodding, smiling and laughing. But, there's no sound, so I can't tell you what they were saying. It would be like attending a convention of deaf mutes. You have no clue what's going on, but I am sure they are talking about incredible things, things probably way over my head. Most things are, actually. Anyway, the Andromedans treat their children like adults, and they teach them everything from a very young age. They go to school for 150 years. God, you have to pick up some stuff after doing that. There's no home economics or stuff like that, it's real educational stuff. No car mechanics 102 or anything like that. My question has to do with the seeding of this planet originally. You mentioned that the Andromedans were here 62,000 years ago. Do you know about any symbols which may involve the reawakening of latent genetic potentials in the human population? Also, is there any relationship between what was going on in Lemuria to the presence of the Andromedans on Earth during that time period? AC, at that point in time, Lemuria was in existence and Atlantis was just beginning to be colonized. Now, according to the Andromedan perspective, Atlantis was an extraterrestrial colony and Lemuria was also. However, there were some of us Terrans there also, and we were servants, more or less. Some of the stronger genetic aspects of our race were used as a priesthood to keep the other humans in line. If you go back and you look at history through Sumeria, Egypt and even today, you see this. Today, the new priesthood is the world bankers. They have total control of your life on a monetary physical level. It's hard to do anything on this planet without money. As far as latent DNA and latent memories, I have been told that there will be a point where as the frequency increases, we will start to remember things. There are children today who remember things and can speak all these languages that are not Earth languages. Some of these languages are extinct languages that some of these children just know. It's the latent memory in the DNA that is coming out. More and more of this will be occurring. I know of a woman who has contacted me who lives in Tennessee. She has a child who came to her one day and said, "You know, Mom, if I were to reverse engineer a nuclear bomb and explode it, it would draw all the radiation out of here." This kid is 6 years old. You know, there are children in Egypt today who are walking out into the desert and showing archaeologists things, saying things like, "I remember that there was a library there." And, sure enough, they would find the foundation. Our government, because of its satellite technology, might know this. But, there's no way a 10-year-old child would know this. So, the world powers have a real serious problem. People are waking up, and it's great. Our heritage has been denied to us, and we have been robbed of it. Don't let it go. We need to know who we are. Q. You said before that the reptilians were interested in the children because of what they got from them, but it would seem that an advanced technology such as theirs would be able to clone their food, or clone supplements. Alright. I want you to look at this idea. When is anything that is a clone as good as the original? Okay? What you fail to realize is yes, they can create clones, and they do have human clones, but you cannot put a soul into it. You may grow an organic processor in the brain, get them to act in everything, but there is no soul attached to it. As long as there is no soul, you don't have true emotion. If I were to go over there and do something that would scare the hell out of you, you would have a very serious emotional rush. The reptilians are addicted to the peaking of that emotional rush. It's like a narcotic to them, because they don't have it. They're numb. They are all in their head, in self-imposed isolation. Q. Do they terrify the children? AC. Yes. Q. Do you have any information that would shed light on the mystery of gravity on this plane? Will it disappear when the frequency changes? The Andromedan perspective on gravity is that it is created by radiation from the sun. We are told that it is because of the rotation of the planet on its axis. They say that any physical body that is 29 miles or larger has a gravitational field. They have gravity on the Andromedan craft, and I assume that it is there so they can get more done and so they are not just floating all over the place. As we move into higher density, my feeling is that we will deal with a different aspect of gravity than the gravity we know. It might be a different field strength, but we will have different physical form as well. Q. They display mutual respect and love, but I would like to know how they do that. The second question is that in our society, all of our myths and legends seem to be blueprints for our lives. Do they have myths and legends? If you could get that information to Val, I would love to have that. AC. They don't have a concept of myth. They only call it history. I will give those to Val. You're right, there is a lot, but it's history. We have taken truth and shrouded it as myth, because we are hiding an agenda. How do they show mutual respect? They just honor every aspect of life, and everyone else's life. Because they are so evolved, there's no such thing as crime there. There are no such things as laser shootings on a mothership. They need for nothing. Anything that they need is given to them for evolvement, and they all work towards that. They wouldn't think of leaving somebody behind. I will give you a good example of that, too. There was a ship that was apparently shot down in 1985. And it was a human being from Tau Ceti, who literally got too close to the Earth and was shot down. I understand that our military took him underground somewhere in North Dakota, where they started doing so really horrific things to him. Morani told me that a Tau Ceti fleet of ships wanted to come in and invade our planet, particularly North Dakota, to get this guy back. It was literally the Andromedans and a benevolent group of Pleiadians that stepped in and said, "No, not yet, it's not the time." That's mutual respect? Mutual respect is not leaving pals in Vietnam because you promise a government $3 billion. It's not leaving men in North Korea because you lied and you're dealing drugs and you don't want the population to find out about it. That's not mutual respect? Those are characteristics we need to look at, because there are today 117 men still left as POWs, but they are not in Vietnam, but are instead being held in northern Laos. There are also 3 men being held from the Korean War being held in North Korea, and our government knows about all of it. A lot of the POWs were used for scientific experiments. We did it to some of their guys, using drugs, LSD, etc. They've done some pretty horrific things to our people. These are all really issues of character. It's one thing to hear about it on the news, or to listen to Joyce Riley talk about the Gulf War syndrome and how our guys have been betrayed, or to sit in your living room and say, "That's terrible." But, What you don't understand is that we are very carefully being watched by some incredible races, both good and bad, and they are watching us and our characteristics. What we will do and what we will not do. They are measuring our honor and intent as a race. It's not just about us anymore. It's about everything. I know you are probably being taught that, so when you hear stuff like this, please don't go into your little box, okay? Those people have families and children, just like you do now, and it was all taken away because they were betrayed, and betrayal is a major issue that we are all going to have to deal with when the truth does finally come screaming out, okay? We have been betrayed, and we are going to have to come together and find a way to totally forgive that, so that we can move on. But, in the act of forgiving it, it is important not to allow it to happen again, to be more diligent. Now, I am so tired. The Earth Change material is on the internet on the Leading Edge website. Most of you already know this stuff. You're looking for specific dates and times. That's not important. It's all coming, but it is all a probability as to when. Alright? But, there are so many negatively polarized people on the planet at this time that it is almost assuredly going to happen at this point. Q. Where is the second sun? AC. It is behind the sun that we see. It is smaller than the sun we see and lies behind it. If you were standing on Mars, you see it, okay? Now, the reason our planet was moved is because the planet could not handle the radiation from two suns after the last war. So, they moved it. When I asked Moreni who moved the Earth, his response was that it was something the Pleiadians had to answer. So, I don't know if there is an agreement for them to bring this information out, or if they were responsible for it. I don't know. But, apparently the evidence of the presence of the second sun is coming out. I want to end this talk by reading an Indian prayer shown instead at the beginning of this book. I have a very deep respect for the Native Americans, and I think that they're great, and that they have really tried to hold on to their integrity through it all, and that they themselves still have major prejudices with the white race. Whether this is justified or not, what happens to us happens to them, so we all need to drop it, come to the table, and bring with us all the wisdom we have, in order to deal with the situations that are coming. There are still some Native Americans that choose to withhold information regarding the star nations and star races. That's fine, but there will be others coming up behind them to make sure that humanity gets the information, because we have to know the truth. It is the only way we can make the right decision. You cannot make the correct decision with only half the truth. It's still the wrong decision, or it could still backfire because we don't know all the pieces of the puzzle. From what little I do know, it appears that all of you are truly blessed to be able to come to a school like this, and get the information that you need, so that you can go out and teach others. Folks, I want to stress this again. It is imperative that you take the knowledge that you have been given, and you teach others. We are running out of time. We can really turn this around, but we have to do it right away, and we have to be committed to it. Time, as we know it, is so short. I don't think that it is fair that 2/3 of the planet are not going to make it because they have not been told the truth. It just isn't fair. There are a lot of good people on the planet who are real simple people, and they are not being told the truth. Now, they may not want to believe it, but that's all right. At least you put it out there, and they made a choice. But, unless it's put out there, they won't know that there's a choice. That's all you can do. You're not really responsible for anybody else but yourself.